Hello, everyone. This brings us to the most exciting segment of the conference. It's the final session under exclusive sessions. Here, we will be joined by the chief architect behind Dr. Reddy's success, Mr. G V Prasad, co chairman and managing director, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories Limited. The man needs no introduction. He has transformed the company from a predominantly bulk drug manufacturing unit to the big league of global businesses. Today, Dr. Reddy's drugs are available in more than 40 countries, and the company employees are spread over different parts of the world. We are extremely honored to have Mr. Prasad at TechHR India 2022. To facilitate this session, we have Ester Martinez, CEO and Editor in Chief, People Matters. Over to you, Esther.
Thank you so much, Sprihan. A very warm welcome, everyone, for our last session on this segment. And thank you for joining us. And as you know, we're going to be focusing today as our closing keynote on ESG, sustainability and environmental and social and governance, and how we move from talk to action. And I have the privilege to have with us no other than G V Prasad, Business Executive and Co-Chairman Managing Director at Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. Very warm welcome, Prasad.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Esther.
Thank you so much for being with us. And you have been a proponent of ESG in multiple forums, and we've seen you talk about this topic in business, in multiple forums, as somebody who truly believes that there is a huge opportunity for organizations and industries to adopt ESG. So let's start with a little bit of a broader question. We'd love to understand what is ESG for you, and how does ESG in your mind has moved from, a compliance matter to a more strategic advantage? Tell us a little bit more about what does that mean to you.
Okay. So firstly, I think ESG is not one topic. It is really three different topics. On the environment, I don't think I have to explain why it is important, given everything that is happening around us. Climate change is upon us, loss of biodiversity, zoonotic diseases like COVID-19 coming out because of loss of habitat. So the case is very clear, not just for organizations, but for individuals also, why we need to take care of our planet, why we need to drive a better performance on the environmental side. The social impact is a little less clear for people. People have always been brought up in the paradigm that the business exists to create profits, and the social impact is not the primary impact. That argument is changing now. It is now very clear that every organization has to stand for something, which is their purpose, and the purpose has to be meeting some unmet need of society, of the world, and ensuring that it is met well and be profitable at the same time. That is the S part. And of course, there's the other aspect of S is fairness, equity, and things like historically discriminated groups like gender discrimination. In India, there are whole sections of society who have been left out of the race to prosperity. So all of this is also becoming important. So companies have to be part of the movement to make the world fairer and more equitable. G is about governance. It's about how you run the company, and this is very important to build, trust with your stakeholders. Also, to be transparent, because corporations today wield enormous power, and this power has to be handled responsibly for the greater good of the society. And hence, transparency, trust building, fairness, all of these become very important. And this is why I think E, S, and G have always been important for organizations. Society has put much more value on them these days, driven by investors, driven by activists, companies like BlackRock, who have started evangelizing ESG. So that's why it has become front and center now. And what used to be in the background has to become part of execution, part of strategy, part of your measurement, part of your disclosures.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this lovely definition and for clarifying. As we start this conversation, we all now understand what we're talking about, and it's not one thing but three things. And taking it from what you just mentioned, and how do we then integrate it in our strategy, integrating it in our execution, in our way of working. It looks like a very, very complex task, because on the other one hand, you have the realities of the marketplace, the uncertainty, the economic situation. Then we now need to look at not just the old metrics, which continue to be important, but now you need to look at these three new pillars. How do we go about simplifying this complexity, if you could help us?
I think it first starts with listening to your inner voice. You're conscious, and that's why these things are being called conscious capitalism these days. But all of these were always relevant. Taking care of the environment. No company can exist if it is leaving a world which is polluted, which is causing damage. So there's nothing, it's just doing the right thing. The social impact is also very clear. Most companies exist to create positive impact in this world, except maybe a few which are in the vice business. And for this conversation, we can exclude them. Companies which make cigarettes or which make other things which actually damage the health of people, you can exclude them. And if you exclude them, every company has a social purpose. We all exist to do something good for society, something good for our customers, for our stakeholders. So if you look inside, I think inside you'll find the answers. And governance is about doing the right thing and making sure everybody knows that you're doing the right thing, and being transparent builds that trust. So in a way, I don't see this as external to what we do. It's part of what we do. The only difference now is that your stakeholders are asking you for evidence that you're doing the right thing. So now you have to start measuring these things. So every company is being asked to disclose their carbon emissions, your wastewater discharges, your performance per unit of your output, how is it improving, your energy consumption. These all make the whole intent more tangible. This is on the environmental front. On the social front, there are many indicators. For example, for us as a company which makes pharmaceuticals, we've said that we will impact 1.5 billion people's health in the world, and that drives our actions, that drives our strategy, and it really also makes us much more innovative. We also said that we will bring 3 innovations to the market every year, which will actually change the way diseases are treated, which will improve the way diseases are treated. So that's another metric that we have taken upon. Now, governance, there are many guidelines to help you improve your disclosures, measure what you're supposed to measure. So from intent, it has moved to action, evidence, and outcomes measurement. So to that extent, I think ESG it's a task. It is difficult, but it's a beginning. We start baselining where we are on all the parameters, measure our progress every year, make them public, make them available to all your stakeholders, and that's how you adopt to the new ESG frameworks that are coming out. Of course, there are many guidelines, there are many standards, but they're all coalescing around the central theme of measuring, disclosing, improving, and doing that cycle again and again.
Wonderful, Anna. I'm coming up with so many questions as I'm hearing you, and I'm going to try to see if I can break them down in a way that it's logical. So let me start with this need for evidence or need for measurement, and that intent to really start measuring is a start, but it also can have the danger to get into this, compliance or tick in the box. Okay, I need to report these, I'll report it. But we may be missing out on what actually is the opportunity. So what will be your message for us who are looking at maybe this measurement as, okay, one more thing I need to report, but saying, no, look at it as a beginning, as you mentioned. So give us a little bit more reflection there on how do you connect it with the purpose in the conscious capitalism, that it's not reporting.
Yeah. So I understand what you're saying. There is a compliance mindset. The compliance mindset is to do the minimal to avoid trouble. That's how many companies work. And that's a good beginning, just being compliant with all the expectations, all the rules, and doing that. But that, by having a compliance mindset, you miss the whole opportunity. There's a whole great opportunity to innovate. When you try to reduce your carbon footprint, you unleash a lot of energy. Employees are extremely happy that we are committing to very bold goals. They want to be part of this journey. They are motivated. They bring their innovative ideas to work. And all this unleashes an enormous amount of momentum in the organization. And also, moving from the minimal compliance mindset to a maximal positive impact creates enormous opportunity for innovation, for driving solutions which did not exist, which makes you much more efficient, much more effective at what you do. And there's an enormous energy unleashed in the organization when you go for the maximal rather than being a minimal organization. And I think that is what I think people should focus on, the opportunity to make a positive difference in all the areas of environmental, social impact, and governance. And this is a great thing for happening for the entire corporate world, that stakeholders are demanding this. And if you go beyond that, it unleashes a huge amount of energy and innovation, which will certainly move the company forward in its purpose and in its business. So I would encourage all of you to think, both even from an individual level, how can you be better as in your lifestyle, from an environmental point of view, from a social impact point of view. And these days, the youngsters are much more vocal about these things, and they will, push the change and push the envelope for both individual behavior and for organizational behavior to become better corporate citizens and create much more positive impact in all the three areas.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Prasad. So as you look at these as a large scale transformation, and not one initiative, two initiatives, three initiatives, but really a new way of doing business, as I hear you, how do you pace the short-term, long-term? How do you make sure that you pace yourself in this transformation marathon? Because it's not, the temptation could be that you start with a lot of energy and then everything kind of fizzles out like any big, large transformation. So how are you approaching it to make sure that it's sustainable and to make sure that you manage both short-term and long-term goals?
So there is no long term if you don't meet your short term goals. Yeah. So it's important to meet your short term goals. But that does not mean you have to be short sighted, that you will maximize your profits at the expense of the environment or at the expense of equity or whatever that is. That would be even more short term in your thinking if you do that. And if you have become too short term in your thinking, you have realized we have realized where we have ended up. So I think you need to keep your eye on the long term, but all your short term actions must be aligned with the long term. And its purpose does not mean loss of profit. You can do purpose and you can be profitable also. So I think you need to do, and that is the innovation that we need, that we continue to create positive impact on all the three areas without sacrificing profitability. And that is the defining management challenge for all of us today. How do we continue to make progress on E, S, and G without paying a price on profitability? And that, I think, is what true sustainability is about.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prasad,
I just want to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Once you start measuring, you'll find lots of opportunities to improve your performance and improve your purpose fulfillment also, and also have a positive impact on all the three areas of ES and G. So it is not a zero-sum game. You're actually pushing the envelope in terms of creativity, performance to achieve outcomes which you never thought you could achieve unless you had these goals in front of you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So what are some of the commitments that you have seen are needed in terms of, capabilities, in terms of, maybe where you spend your time, where your leadership team spend your time, something which is like some awareness that you need to be clear to say, well, we will have to make some commitments. What are some of those commitments that you think you have learned in your experience that are really important?
So I think firstly, this mindset that ESG is going to cost us something has to go out of the door. You have to start with the basics of measuring everything, and baselining is where you start. Once you baseline, once you know where you are and what is causing your impacts, you can then work on solutions. But I would strongly recommend that you baseline your performance on all the three fronts, and then see the gap where you want to be. And I think once you start doing all this, there will be a momentum building up in the organization to achieve both profits and ESG performance. So I think I would start with baselining. I would then educate people, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about these issues. And once you start doing that, the momentum builds. It becomes a movement in your organization, a positive movement, and then you have the snowball effect. So I think there is enormous potential here to be a force for good by embracing ESG and sustainability.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. My last two questions, and I love we had more time, but unfortunately we have to wrap up in another 5 minutes. But I love to understand, how do you connect this vision of work different or business being different? How do you connect that with the way you look at your people strategy, your people and work, people and culture approach? How has that changed in your mind as a business leader?
So one of the things that, when you start looking at your numbers, you can see the inequity in front of you. So, for example, we did a baselining of how many managers we have who are women in senior leadership roles. And it was only 12%. So that was, crying out as a area for action. So we took a goal that we will triple this by 2030. From 12 to 36%. Then we saw that overall our gender balance was way off. We are 19% or 18% women in the total company of 23,000 people. That again is a inequity we needed to correct. So we took a goal of saying that by 2035 we will achieve gender parity in the company. So it really motivated everyone to do things differently. Initially, there was a little bit of resistance. No, this cannot be done. It is too hard, and this and that. But as we start taking small steps towards it, we modified some of our policies. We put some programs to encourage the growth of women leaders. And then our hiring system has undergone some transformation. It started having an impact. And all these are people-related issues. And the other thing is, committing to bold goals on ESG can unleash a lot of energy, a lot of pride in your workforce, and a lot of motivation. And it can be a big tool for attracting talent, retaining them, energizing them. So it is certainly a people issue to me as much as something to do with sustainability.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And this year's People Matters TechHR's theme is about rethinking what's possible. And I think your closing keynote for today is really an invitation in a very tactical way of how can we rethink what's possible using the three levers that you just so generously share with you, and how you're doing it at Dr.Reddy's. So more of a personal question, if I were to ask you, how do you rethink what's possible? What are your mantras or your ways of seeing the world with fresh eyes, continue improving yourself? What is it that you do to rethink what's possible? What is Prasad's mantra to rethink what's possible?
I wish there was a mantra. There is no mantra. It is hard work. It is tenacity to be committed for the long term. But I really felt very energized by the response we got. When I started this journey many years ago, the journey on sustainability is not new at Dr. Reddy's. We started in the early 2002-3 at that period. It was seen as something nice, something good, but we did a lot of stuff. But we never integrated it into our management system, into our strategy. And while we were ambitious, we were not audacious. Today, I think we moved from being ambitious to audacious with very powerful, bold goals, which we honestly don't know how to reach. But it's exciting to think about that world of possibility. And it's unleashing a lot of creativity, energy, innovation, search for solutions, and all of that. So, in that sense, I think I'd encourage all leaders to go bold, to go audacious on this. And that's how the world will change. If, the world became what it is due to small actions everybody did, which disregarded the planet, and we are now faced with a crisis. Now, if all of us start taking actions at our individual level and at our organization's level, the whole system will reverse itself, and it will become a positive world. So, if anything, I would say go bold, be audacious, go for the big wins.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Prasad, for being with us, for giving us these guidelines, and also giving us this inspiration to see you as somebody who, and I love when you mentioned, we don't even know how we're going to achieve these audacious goals, but that's what brings us together as a team. So that's really, really lovely. So thank you so much for being with us and sharing your insights and perspectives in today's closing keynote.
Thank you for having me, and all the best. Have a great conference.
Thank you so much, Prasad. And with these, we are closing the conversation today. Do share your takeaways for this session on Twitter, LinkedIn, and please remember to use the hash TechHRIN. Thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Now, that was an amazing session with so many insights. I'm sure everyone is going to take back valuable learnings to their organization. Thank you so much, Mr. Prasad and Esther, for an amazing session. Now that we have come to an end of the exclusive session agenda, we would like to thank you for your enthusiastic participation. I would now invite you all to join us at Studio 2 for our closing keynote for today, right after the tea and networking break. You surely wouldn't want to miss that. Thank you so much, and see you there.